Welcome to Destination Dive. I'm Jennifer Gray at the beautiful Moorings Village Resort in Islamorada. This week, we will take a trip to Marathon, the heart of the Keys, where crystal clear waters meet charming island vibes. Marathon offers some of the best underwater adventures in the world that we will explore. And it's good news on the coral restoration front. After a major coral bleaching event in 2023, corals are making a comeback. We will check in on the latest restoration efforts. But first, sharks. These predators are often feared, but they are vital to the marine ecosystem and are becoming one of the primary draws for divers. Sharks. They have ruled the seas for more than 400 million years, often feared and more often misunderstood.
You know, it kind of goes back to the old Jaws days. You know, in different media outlets, they portray these animals as being just mindless killers out there, and they're not.
Sharks are apex predators, positioned at the very top of the oceanic food chain, but their importance extends far beyond the fearsome reputation they've earned in popular culture. They are vital to the health and stability of marine ecosystems.
If you take out that apex predator at the top, the whole pyramid starts breaking down. So the things that the shark feeds on, they explode, right? And then the things that they feed on disappear. And it's just a chain effect. And what'll happen is you'll have the extinction of numerous species in our ocean to the point where our coral reefs will start dying.
PADI, the Professional Association of Dive Instructors, along with Eric Billups and Islamorada Dive Center, have teamed up to spread the word about the importance of protecting our sharks. They're calling it No Fin in My Soup.
But really what it is just, you know, getting the masses out there and getting them to partake in learning about sharks, and again, getting a new respect for them, and you know, hopefully being warriors in the efforts to help these critters, you know, have a long and fruitful life.
Ask any dive instructor the best way to fall in love with sharks and grow a newfound respect for them. They'll tell you, dive with them.
They're excited to get out there and see them, and possibly snorkel with them, and even dive with them up close and personal. And afterwards, back on the boat, boy, it's hooting and hollering, and the excitement and the endorphins that are released is just unbelievable.
The number one sign of a healthy reef is a healthy shark population. And while sharks worldwide have declined by as much as 60 to 80% in the last 30 years, there's a desperate attempt to save them.
There's a term called ghost fishing, where people are going around fishing, using equipment, sometimes responsibly, sometimes not. And whether it be by accident or intentional, some of their equipment still ends up in the ocean. And even though they are not there trying to fish, harvest, recover, anything like that, their equipment's still down there doing the same thing. And so it's just needlessly killing, needlessly harming all sorts of wildlife down there.
It's traps like these and other marine debris that's littering our oceans, and it's harmful for the corals and the sea life. But organizations are heading out and cleaning up this debris so the corals and the sea life can thrive.
We're gonna help clean up the lobster and crab traps down here.
It's a Herculean task, but one that dive shops and volunteers are willing to tackle, cleaning up the countless decaying traps that dot the ocean floor from Maine to the Florida Keys.
What happens is these traps are buoyed. There's a line that goes up to the surface with a little buoy, and this is how the lobster fishermen find their traps and haul them in. Well, with all the boating that goes around out here, those buoys are run over occasionally, and the fishermen can't find their traps.
These traps don't just sit on the ocean floor and rest peacefully. It's far from. These traps and their lines get tangled around marine life, often killing them, and also tear up the newly planted corals before they even have a fighting chance.
And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of traps that are deployed every year, both on the Atlantic side and the Gulf side here in the Keys.
It was Hurricane Irma in 2017 that truly brought this problem to light in the Keys. A Category 4 hurricane with winds of 130 miles per hour not only devastated portions of the paradise on land, but the underwater world as well.
Irma came pretty quick, and a lot of these fishermen weren't able to get all of their traps out of the water, and it turned into an absolute disaster. And we as divers, advocates for diving, advocate for our environment, got together and went down and dove and saw the aftermath and went, whoa, we need to do something.
Dive shop owners encourage divers to preserve the ocean by cleaning up any marine debris they might encounter while diving. And by working together with raising awareness to fishermen, their hope is that the seafloor can remain clean. Just one more step in protecting our fragile corals, the marine life, and the entire ecosystem. Coming up, if you are looking for a shark or any big species on a dive, look no further than a wreck. We will take you to an incredible wreck site in Marathon known for these apex predators. And later, see how corals in the Keys are making a comeback after a catastrophic bleaching event in 2023. Welcome back to Destination Dive. Today, we're exploring one of the most iconic wrecks in the Keys, the Thunderbolt. Resting in the waters just off Marathon, this shipwreck is more than just a dive site. It's a living reef with history as rich as the marine life that call it home. Originally built for the U.S. Army in 1942, its long life ended in 1961 when Florida Power and Light bought it to research lightning strikes. Hence the name, the Thunderbolt.
It was actually used to monitor lightning strikes out at sea. So I think it had something like 500 lightning strikes to it.
Florida Power and Light donated it to the Keys Artificial Reef Association, and it was then sunk in 1986, where it has rested on the ocean's sandy bottom ever since.
You can still see the old spool for the cables up at the front of the vessel. That's really cool. And that one, it's another wreck. It's perfectly upright. They sunk it intentionally. It landed exactly where it was supposed to go.
Submerged underwater for nearly 40 years, this wreck has unbelievable amounts of coral and marine life, flourishing everywhere you look.
It's usually a good Goliath grouper hotspot as well. They're fairly common on that. And I'd say the Goliath groupers on that, every time I've been on there, probably 800, 900 pounds. I mean, they're massive Goliath groupers. And again, it's another easy dive. It's in a really good location. There's not a lot of stuff around it.
Another draw to the Thunderbolt is the relatively shallow nature of the dive. It allows divers more bottom time to explore all of the swim-throughs and nooks and crannies of the wreck.
It's pretty easy to get all the way around in one dive. We don't usually get much current on there. I have been out there when there's been a bit of it before, but it's not common on that. And every time I've done it, the visibility's been like 80 to 90 feet. It's been a great dive every single time that I've done it.
There's no doubt that wrecks in the Florida Keys are special, and the Thunderbolt is no different. Wrecks offer a unique form of diving that's rich in biodiversity and sprinkled with history and surprises.
Wrecks provide a lot of opportunities for a lot of different things, right? And each dive is different to each person. I love life. Life is my big thing. And I know that if I go to the wrecks in the Florida Keys, life is going to congregate on it, right? I mean, I've seen manta rays on our wrecks down here. People have seen whale sharks. Not necessarily things that you're going to see on the reef. They're too big or they're too scared to come in that close for X number of reasons. But wrecks are so many things to so many people.
Whether you dive wrecks for the history, for the mystery, or simply for the thrill of being underwater, the Thunderbolt is a must-see.
If you miss out on the Thunderbolt coming down to the Keys, you're cheating yourself. I would dive that every day if I could. If it was closer to where I live, I would dive that every single day.
Another wreck site near Marathon is the Adelaide Baker. This 153-foot ship sunk in 1889 after the captain veered off course. The remnants are scattered along the ocean floor and are still there today, covered with marine life. While there's no physical vessel on the ocean floor, what's left of the ship provides a ghostly reminder of what happened when the ship wrecked more than a century ago. Whether you visit a wreck that was the result of unfortunate circumstances or a wreck that was intentionally sunk for the sake of our oceans, you can bet it will be thriving if it's in the Keys.
Once we sink them there, what they do is they get a chance to develop the coral on them and the other life and the anemones and all those things, and they get that opportunity for life to grow. And then by having the coral growth there, that means the fish come in there to use it as protection. And when you get the little fish, that brings the bigger fish, which brings the sharks, which brings the predators. So you can literally go down on most of the wrecks in the Florida Keys and see one whole entire ecosystem at work from the bottom of the food chain to the top. And just, it's nice to have that.
Coming up, we will take you to some of the top reefs in Marathon where the locals love to dive. But first, after the devastating bleaching event in 2023, corals are making a comeback. We will check in and see what scientists learned during that devastating event and how they have figured out a way to help corals thrive even under impossible circumstances. Welcome back to Destination Dive. The Florida Keys are home to the largest barrier reef in the United States and the third largest barrier reef in the world. So when record-shattering ocean temperatures impacted the Keys in 2023 and major bleaching occurred, the Keys were thrust into the spotlight. Many believed their beautiful reefs would never recover. But actually, corals are making a comeback, and it has scientists inspired.
We found that during the bleaching event, unfortunately, many of the branching corals died, but these boulder brain and massive corals showed pretty significant resilience, meaning that they underwent bleaching, and we saw them recover by the fall and winter of 2023.
The massing bleaching event gave scientists a real-life experiment to test the resilience of the strongest corals, and as a result, they have now redirected their focus to the hardier species.
We really are realizing that for a lot of areas on the reefs here, we need to take a much more catered approach to how we're outplanting corals, which individuals we're outplanting, the time of year that they're outplanted, potentially the size at which they're outplanted. And of course, we still want to maintain as much species diversity as possible, as well as much genetic diversity as possible. But we need to make these choices in a much more careful manner so that we have confidence that the corals that are outplanted are going to survive even under these extreme events.
While the boulder and brain corals may be slower growing than the staghorn and elkhorn corals, they are proving to be much more resilient and could be the answer to the reef's long-term comeback.
We are not only changing the species now that we are outplanting, incorporating new ones, but we are actually trying to identify those pockets of survivorship that are on the reef today, that survived the bleaching event. And then we are adding corals to those locations. Some of those locations are shallow reefs, some of those locations are deeper reefs. So we are using nature to inform our process moving forward.
And the path moving forward also includes boosting natural processes for reef restoration.
From this point of view that we have, we are able to, for example, look into funding sources for how to raise Caribbean king crabs in aquaculture settings, as we know that they actually consume a large amount of algae. So if we're able to actually enhance stocks on the reefs of these aquacultured crabs, we can see that algae will hopefully be pretty well maintained. So by looking at all these different fields, these developing fields such as aquaculture, we're able to take an ecosystem-based approach to coral restoration, more of a holistic approach.
While coral restoration often feels like a race against time, pinpointing the exact reason behind some coral survival is a long process.
It can take a long time to really conduct these surveys at a large scale to see where and which individuals survived. And for example, taking a little bit of tissue to conduct genetic analyses on to understand, is it the actual coral host itself that has something special about it that allowed it to survive, or is it something about the symbiotic algae that contributed to that resilience? So these types of studies can take a long time, but we are all working together to locate, for certain species, the remaining individuals, especially of these threatened or endangered species.
They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, And this might very well be the case with coral restoration, making our corals stronger than ever before and teaching the world how coral restoration is done.
The Florida Keys is definitely the cradle of coral reef restoration. Here, a lot of the methods that have been used worldwide started, were pioneered, were tested. And that's not only for the restoration, but also some of the disturbances. So definitely the Florida Keys is a key player in the restoration sphere worldwide.
Corals making a comeback. What a beautiful and hopeful sight for these treasured Florida Keys reefs. And if you are planning to visit the Keys, look for opportunities to get involved in the planting of new corals on the reefs. Coming up, we will dive with some of these beautiful reefs and see why they are so special and worth protecting. Welcome back to Marathon Key, a place where the underwater world is even more stunning than the surface above. It's no surprise that droves of tourists put Marathon on their dive bucket list. It's home to some of the most famous reefs in all of the Keys.
Some of the best soft coral life that we have here in the Keys is at Coffin's.
Coffin's Patch, named after a ship from the 1800s carrying coffins, wrecked on the reef. Most of the coffins are believed to have washed ashore, but some are thought to be buried beneath the sand. But this reef is anything but dead. It's teeming with life.
And the soft coral at Coffin's is in really good shape. We see a lot of moray eels at Coffin's, and I don't know why that we see them there. The biggest one I've ever seen in the Keys lives on it. So he's about that big around, and he's about 6 feet long, and he's a really big green moray. And most morays don't swim out in the open in the daytime. This guy has no problem swimming out in the open in the daytime. He's usually out where you can see him. You can usually see the whole body.
Coffin's Patch's relatively shallow depth allows for divers of all skill level to enjoy the reef, while still showcasing stunning underwater landscapes. The crystal clear water and shallow nature presents excellent visibility, making it one of the best spots to experience the vibrant marine life and pristine coral ecosystems that make this part of the Keys so special. Another must-see reef around Marathon Key is Sombrero Reef. At a depth of only 20 feet, this reef is another perfect, easy dive with a huge payout.
It's known for just being spectacular. Lots of life on there, very common to see things like nurse sharks, Caribbean reef sharks down there. All your other sort of, Jack Travals, amberjacks, things like that are very common fish to see.
One of the highlights for divers and snorkelers is the abundance of turtles on Sombrero Reef.
The turtles at Sombrero, it's so common to see them. We see them all the time out at Sombrero. Usually green or loggerhead. Occasionally, rarely, you might see like a Kemp's Ridley or something like that, but usually if it's going to be a turtle, it's going to be a green or loggerhead out that way.
And when it comes to epic turtle sightings, it might be a bigger win for the snorkelers.
If you're going to be snorkeling, you'll see more turtles than the divers do because you get this great big wide field of vision and they come up and they take a breath of air. So half the time we'll be on the boat yelling to people like, hey, there's a turtle behind you, and they'll turn around and it's right there. And they had no idea, so they get that once in a lifetime awesome turtle experience.
There's no doubt that Marathon's reef life is a must-see in the Florida Keys. With other areas to dive like Delta Shoals, another shallow reef that features a combination of coral formations, sandy patches, and seagrass beds that create the perfect habitat for a wide variety of sea life. Marathon has something for everyone. It's a place the entire family can enjoy, catering to all skill levels from novice snorkeling to extreme diving. With vibrant colors and endless amounts of ocean life, it promises to be a stop you'll never forget. Thanks for joining us for Destination Dive. We hope you'll join us next week as we travel to Big Pine Key, where you will find one of the most majestic beaches where you can dive right from shore. And we'll meet some veterans who are finding a new purpose in life with work with coral restoration. Thanks for watching. Join us next time for Destination Dive.